The Steipler Gaon was a tremendous masmid. Living and learning, it was his entire life. But as he became older, he became the acclaimed leader of the Jewish people, and his living room became filled for hours with the entire Jewish nation's problems, issues, worries, troubles. When he was somewhere in his 80s, his story is told that his entire apartment is filled with people waiting for a bracha, some to ask advice. And rare it was that the Steipler would look up. Typically he'd be looking down and he would say a few words, cryptic words, often with Ruach HaKodesh. That's how he would greet person after person. One afternoon, the apartment is filled, the Steipler's looking down, a man walks into the apartment and the Steipler stops and he looks up. And he points and he says, "Russia, wicked one, get out, get out, get out of here." The man who had walked in saw that the Steipler was pointing to him. He turned around, ran out the door, walked out. A few hours later, someone comes to the Steipler and says, "Shuldik Rosh Hashiva, I want to tell you that the man that the Steipler called a Russia, a wicked man, isn't so wicked." That man got into a car. Very shortly thereafter, that car got into a terrible collision. Every other occupant in the car was killed. That man alone was saved. Obviously, he's not a wicked person. And the Steipler turned to the person delivering the message and says, "Don't you understand? When that man walked in the door, the Malach HaMovis, the angel of death, walked in with him. The only way I could save him, Amal ben Pnei Chaveru Barabim, if you embarrass a person in public, it's as if you killed him, was the only way I could save him." Once upon a time, there were people like the Steipler who could see the Malach HaMovis walk in. But we don't see, we don't know. We walk out of Shul on Rosh Hashanah with joy in our heart, trusting in Hashem, but we don't know. We don't know what the verdict is. But I'd like to share with you one very simple observation. Every single community, and if you daven in a shul large enough, I'd like to make one guarantee. There'll be many beautiful gzar dins, many beautiful decrees on Rosh Hashanah. There'll be a couple who couldn't have children for years. This year it's decreed they have a child. A man who couldn't get a job, this is a different year. An older single who couldn't find his bashert, this is the year. There'll be many, many beautiful decrees. But there'll also be some decrees that aren't so sweet. Some people who will suffer illnesses, some people diseases. And I guarantee that if you daven in a shul large enough, there'll be at least one or two X's, one or two people who will not be with us next Rosh Hashanah. But we're not privy to that. We don't see the judgment. We don't hear the reading of the decree. And that's why the judgment is difficult. But when we think about that reality, when we bring it into our mind's eye, that every person in this room, their future, and everyone that they're going to interact with is determined, weighed, measured, and decided, that's the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. And when I focus on that, I could recognize in front of whom I stand, and I could begin to understand the gravity of the day, and I could begin using it as I'm supposed to.